Hey everybody, this is Alex Albaran. Welcome back to my channel. And I've been waiting to do this interview for so long because I need to expose Richard Rubel, the Rainmaker, to everybody watching. He is a lifesaver, a game changer, and I wouldn't be in this property. I show it on my YouTube a lot. It's South Florida, on the beach, but I say that because I'm, of course, a business owner, self employed, and it can be very difficult to get a quality 30-year mortgage when your tax returns aren't a clean W 2. And Richard, thank you so much for joining this interview. I just want to, have a conversation about our experience working together. But of course, I have a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs that follow me, and I'd love to expose them to your expertise, your background, because a lot of business owners, they struggle wanting to get a residential mortgage. They have a successful business, they're doing well financially, but of course, part of that is getting proper deductions, and maybe they're depreciating real estate and other assets, so their tax return doesn't show a lot of income, and when they try to get a standard mortgage, they run into issues qualifying. And so just to set the stage with that, but Richard, thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to doing this interview with you. Of course, you're one of my favorite clients. You were easy to work with. And of course, we made it happen. We made it rain, as they say.
I like that. I like that. And let's start with my situation because I think a lot of people listening will see similarities in themselves, and they can learn from it. So my wife and I, we were looking to buy this house. It's a beautiful beachfront property, South Florida, and we had a great 800 plus credit score. Of course, no bankruptcies, great down payment. So like we had all of those qualifications on paper. But again, as a business owner, a part of your job is making money and keeping it, which is being savvy tax wise. Of course, taking the proper deductions. But if you do that a lot of the time, there could be a gap, especially with depreciation, which is sort of it's a phantom short term expense for your taxes. Of course, you have to pay it back, but you might have a few rental properties that get you so much depreciation. So even if you made 750,000 in actual income, depreciation and other deductions could make it look like you made 150,000. That's a wildly different tax bracket for getting a mortgage. And so, I was referred to Richard, and this property is it was 3.6 million. We had over 20% down, again, other great qualifications. But could you talk to me about a situation like that? Or let's say, again, it doesn't have to be a multi-million dollar property. Somebody could be buying a house for $600,000. But if they're self employed, what do they need to do to be prepared? Because the worst thing somebody could do is tour the house with their husband or their wife. They bring the kids, and everybody gets excited, and they think they can easily qualify, and it's just not the case. Maybe they don't know how to prepare. So how should somebody self-employed or a business owner prepare for getting this type of mortgage?
Well, the best way to prepare is, of course, if you're getting this video, is to call me and right away get me involved. Why? Because I could take a look right away on your tax returns to see if you did show money on tax returns. Most of the time, self-employed people, like Alex says, write off everything, or they write most of their income off. So you could start at 300 and end at like 80,000. But what is so good about when you do it that way is, it's less money that you have to pay, of course, but you do show a lot of money when you have businesses. You show a lot of money that goes through your bank statement. So the first thing I would say is call me, let's look at your situation, but start getting your bank statements together so we can see some kind of cash flow that's flowing. So we
So to
could
clarify,
probably
not to cut you off, but that's business bank statements,
business
correct?
bank statements, yes.
So
So if you
explain
have
that if you can.
a business, we would want to look at your business bank statements. If you're self-employed and you're like a sole proprietor and you don't have business bank statements, we can look at your personal tax returns as well. So, but most of my clients are big entrepreneur or business people, and they have business tax, I mean business bank statements, and we like to usually see like some cash flow going through the business bank statement. If you
Right.
have cash
Okay.
flow, then you're in. We could try to, from there scale your income.
Right. So essentially, though, we're talking about qualifying income wise, showing the income to afford the mortgage payments. Because again, you could have the down payment, you could have the credit score, you can have all the right things, but if you're not able to qualify your income, you're not going to get the mortgage. And so for self-employed borrowers, is it safe for them to have 20% down? Is there a certain credit score that's like a minimum? What are the other things they can do to prepare?
Okay, prepare your for your credit score. You have to have usually a 680 or better. So we would want a 680 or better. Or if you're, borderline, I could help you get your credit up to the 680. And then with the down payment, usually they run 20% down, but I do have 10% down products as well for bank statements. You do have to have a 740 credit score or better for something a little bit less down payment.
And does that depend on the loan size? Because maybe once you get to a certain loan amount, then it has to be 20%.
Yeah, when you get over 2 million, you have to have more than 20%. And in this case, this is some of my clients had to have 20% down because the property was multi-million.
Hmm.
So you fit that category, don't you? Anyways,
Yeah. And it worked out. It was amazing. And I think we closed from like when I first called Richard, we came from this property touring it. I'm like, I gotta figure something out. And so we spoke, and I think from that conversation until closing, it was maybe 40 to 45 days. So it's a fast process. Everything worked out. But I think the main thing that I think people need to understand is that, again, they can have the down payment, they can have the credit score, but they also need to have a track record in business.
correct. You
You're
do not.
not going to have this 18 months into a business, or maybe you just left a job and you took some clients and you started a business, like, and 9 months in you want to buy a house. They need to see years of track record. And so
two
what
years.
would be your recommendation on that? Okay, so 2 years, but
Two
is it
years.
also good to have an online presence where maybe the underwriter is going to look up your credibility and see, like, okay, like, is this a real business? Or is there any other tips you have there?
Yes, you have to be a real legitimate business. In some case, if you're not a brick and mortar, sort of speak, on the internet registered, we have to have some kind of presence that we can qualify you through, maybe on the internet, or a CPA or self-employed or like accountant can justify that for you, also saying that you have been self-employed for the last 2 years. So what we usually ask for is a letter from your CPA or accountant, and then we want to see some kind of track record that you're registered somewhere. Sometimes it could be sunbiz.com or one of the local what would that be? What is Sunbiz? Where you
Yeah,
register
it's
your
where, like,
corporation,
you register your LLC. Yeah,
LLC
every
corporation.
state has that, and so
Yeah.
there's a paper trail, and it shows like, oh yeah, this business was established in 2017. It's almost 2026. Okay, they've been in business for almost 9 years, and it shows legitimacy.
That's strong. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, of
Okay.
course, the accountant letter is required because it's saying an accountant knows that you are self-employed, and that you're doing business as a self-employed individual.
Right. Right. Okay. And then what are the biggest mistakes that, again, we're speaking specifically for self-employed, independent contractor, business owner, maybe even a 1099 salesperson. They kind of are in the same boat because their income isn't fixed like a W-2 employee. What are the biggest mistakes that people make in this kind of sense? Is it maybe, again, they think they know, oh yeah, I make like X amount of dollars. They go shopping around for real estate and then they get disappointed? Or what are some of the biggest mistakes that people
Well,
make, again, with getting the mortgage?
we're getting the mortgage. If you do decide on doing the bank statement program, one thing that the underwriters usually frown upon is NSFs. So we get a lot of business owners, NSFs, like non-sufficient funds, like bounce checks. A lot of self-employed businesses just think, like if they're moving the money around too much, that if they get NSFs and they pay it, they think that's okay. It's not really okay when an underwriter looks at you, because they're looking at how solid are you as a borrower. And maybe you might have a credit score, and maybe you don't, you pay good, but if you're bouncing checks, that's never good. They look at stuff like that. And it can cost you in rate, maybe it can cost you an LTV, loan to value. It might cost you the loan. So the good part about it is most self-employed business people really watch their money, and they make sure everything gets paid. But every once in a while we run into that. Another thing that they think is easy is depositing a lot of money all at one time. And usually that's not a good thing unless we can trace it coming maybe from a sales good that was sold, or some kind of service that was rendered. These are the red flags that underwriters look for. That's
Because they want to see consistency. They know it's going to
yeah,
be a sort of equilibrium, like maybe one week is better than the other. But if every 6 weeks you're just getting a fat deposit, like a
yeah,
huge check, they're like, okay, well, what if that maybe one client stops working with you? Then you're kind of toast. Whereas they want to see Stripe or PayPal like every other day,
yeah,
ideally.
yeah.
That makes sense.
And consistency, that's what they're looking for. Like a big one is you have 6 months and then of deposits, and then 1 month no deposits. That's very bad in their eyes. Like they're like, what's going on here? And sometimes we have to challenge, we have to fight that. And that's a hard one to go. A couple thousand is better than no thousand. Okay, so
Because
you
then they're
have to
like,
have
what if your
consistency.
business just has 6 months in a row where it's making no money? You know, like
then then
you're not
then
going
you're
to pay
not a
the
good.
mortgage.
Sometimes we have to switch programs, and we have another program for self-employed called P&L, and that's profit and loss. And we put a profit and loss with a CPA, and we show like, hey, maybe it might be seasonal, but we show that the money is, for like more of a profit and loss per year, and then we
Yeah.
have a year to date that we do, and that's a different product. Of course, you might not have as much loan to value than the bank statement program. So that's why we usually like the bank statement program. It's strong, it's firm, and the rates are better.
Right. And then how many bank statements? I forget. How many did they request? Is it 12 months in a row?
12 months.
12
12
months.
months. 12 months and 2 years in business.
Okay.
So it's fairly, because a lot of times a lot of these businesses get started, they jump from somewhere else. Let's say they were working, doing some kind of job, and then they open up their own business. And it takes about a year to get the cash flow going. So we just look back 12 months. So they could start off a little slow, pick up, and then the next year you're starting to make money. And most of the time when self-employed people start making money, they want to buy a house, or they want to upgrade to a bigger house. So we see a lot of that, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. As long as you have 10%, 12, 20%, or 30% down, depending on your credit score.
Understood. Understood. So is there anything that you learned working with me? Because I'm smiling because I think we were talking every day. You're like my best friend because we were trying to figure it out. You were like, Alex, I need this in the next 5 minutes. I need this PDF or whatever. Because you've been doing this more and more. So have you learned anything, again, maybe working with me or other entrepreneurs, and maybe how we tick differently than maybe W-2 clients in the past?
Yeah, what you learn is you learn to get everything up front, which we did. It's just that when you deal with a bit larger loan amounts, the guidelines have opened up a lot more since we've spoken. Back then it might have been 2 million, now it's 4 million. So, and then maybe in 6 months it might be 6 million. So it's always growing and expanding. So I might have some go-to lenders that I was using back in the past, but they might have not done, let's say, over 2 million. We were in that category. So we had to, switch lenders and then learn the way they do business. But we're pretty much fast track. We could do 30 days now. Back then it was 40. Now we're more like 30 days, depending, it's really on the client. I'll tell you this, you were an A+ client though. When
Oh,
we
thank you.
talked every day, I said, let's get this. You got it over to me. And if you remember, we made closing date and we made it happen. So
It was at the end of the month. Yeah, and
yeah,
if it didn't happen that day, because if you guys think about it, if you start, let's say you're supposed to close on August 31st, and then you close September 2nd, maybe the lender, for whatever reason, wants to see August's bank statements, to see if anything has changed, and it can cause delays. And so, no, I was so happy when we made this happen, because this was a once in a lifetime asset, once in a lifetime deal, and it wouldn't have happened without you. So no, thanks so much for helping. And again, I probably have a lot of people watching this that maybe they're going to buy a house in 18 months, but they'd love to at least chat with you. And like you're saying, they want to prepare and learn from even my experience and your other experiences, so that in 18 months, when they want to pull the trigger, all their ducks are in a row and it's super smooth. Whereas, to be frank, I kind of jumped in not planning to do it, and God, willing, it still worked out. But if they can learn from this, watch this video, and of course speak with you and get the right plan in place, then it won't be as much day to day. They'll have all their paperwork, the right plan, and it'll be even smoother. And so, is there a way that they can contact you? I'll put maybe your phone number or a link below. And you work with Van Dyke Mortgage as well. But is there anything where maybe they could follow you on Instagram or something like that for a consultation?
Yes, it's under Richard Rubel Home Loans. And I mean, of course, you can reach me at 954-895-2310 with Van Dyke Mortgage, the Rainmaker. You can look me up on Instagram, the Rainmaker. I pop up there as well. But I do, how would I say this? I'm starting to be very social media present. So you could find me LinkedIn. I'm in LinkedIn as well. So
Hey, no,
all
follow
over the
Richard on Instagram. Yeah, he's really pumping out more and more content lately, and especially if you mention you came through Alex, he's going to give you that extra special love and attention. But no,
Absolutely.
Richard, thank you so much for hopping on this interview. I really feel like people watching, it'll make them happier and more successful, because obviously buying a house is financial, it's logical, but it's emotional. I mean, anybody that
Yes.
disagrees is crazy. So before you get your emotions in a certain property that maybe you can't buy right now, it's better to get the logic, get the paperwork, get all of this stuff in order, so that when you find the dream house, you can just pull the trigger and there's as little stress and it's as smooth as possible. So if you're, again, looking to plan or looking to do something in this realm, contact Richard. I highly recommend him. And thanks for hopping on this interview. I appreciate it.
Alex, I love you and your family, and the experience that we had as a lifetime memory. And you're one of my favorite clients. And like I always said, we made it rain.
Rain. I love that. No, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon.